Welcome to our online Shotsuki Hoyo for March. It's our monthly memorial service, and also we'll do it as an adult Dharma service as well. I'd like to begin by reading the names of those who've passed away in the month of March. Genmatsu Aikawa, Shizuko Aikawa, Larry Choi, Sadajiro Fuji, Motojiro Fukuda, Garrett Gluck, Kiichi Richard Goto, Masato Hashimoto, Reverend Akira Hata, Catherine Fumiko Hata, Ryokichi Hayashida, Shizue Hirabayashi, Ayako Hirai, Asano Hirota, Tom Honda, Edward Tatsuo Hori, Jitsuo Horimoto, David Hoshide, Juntaro Ichikawa, Agnes Ide, Shigeko Ide, Unoe Inouchi, Kotoku Inoue, Ryohei Inoue, Deborah Ishida, Beverly Ishizu, Yoshio Isono, Sukejiro Kamano, Masame Kanagaki, Heiji Kano, Tsutomu Kasai, Umeyo Kasai, Fujio Kataoka, Yohei Kataoka, Sue Kawabata, Tsuru Kawabata, Hideko Kida, Martha Kido, Jutaro Kubota, James Kurata, Umejiro Kuritsubo, Kyoko Kuwahara, Nancy Kuwahara, Shigeki Kuwahara, Osami Sam Maruyama, Reverend Kenyu Masuyama, Kojiro Matsui, Tayo Matsui, Henry Matsutani Jr., Hagino Matsuoka, Minoru Matsumoto, Tarobe Minamidani, Kame Mitsuda, Kohei Miyamoto, Masato Miyamura, Kyoko Mizuki, Masao Mori, Yoshimatsu Mori, Seiichiro Morimoto, Matsue Morishita, Tayo Morishita, Misao Murakawa, Toshio Murakawa, Zenkichi Murakawa, Reverend Gyosei Nagafuji, Yoko Nagafuji, Hatsu Nakai, Junji Nakashima, George Nakatani, Tsuneko Nakatani, Yasutaro Nakatani, Henry Natsuhara, Alexander Nagoro, Michiko Nihira, Hiroshi Neishi, Mitsugi Neishi, Kyoichi Nobori, Masami Nobori, Joan Nomura, Terashi Nomura, Sueko Norimoto, Sadao Okai, Ohata family, Misao Okano, Fujio Okawa, Shigenobu Okawachi, Joe Okumura, Masai Onizuka, Kei Ota, Ryuichi Otaguro, Baiseki Otsuka, Asataro Otsuka, Shigeru Sakaki, Kichimatsu Satake, Minoru Satake, Misao Satake, Shokichi Satake, Tetsuo Shigaya, Frank Shimamoto, Zenichi Shimamoto, Shizuko Shirayama, Bennosuke Sugiyama, Shin Takahashi, Jeffrey Takagaki, Ishii Takata, Masue Tanaka, Suekio Tanisawa, Matsuyo Toji, Unkichi Toyofuku, Isoko Umeki, Sadato Ushijima, Jintaro Yamamoto, Saikichi Yamamoto, Shigeru Yamamoto, Yoshizo Yamamoto, Yukie Yamamoto, Sono Yamashita, William Yamazaki LaRue, Motoichi Yanagi, Totaro Yokoi, Tane Yokoi, Eisaku Yoshida, Haruno Yoshioka, Tsurue Yoshisato, Fusako Yuto, Jitsuyo Yuto, Kayoko Yuto. Next, we'll have Sutra chanting. Today we will chant Sanbutsuge. You can chant along, or you can think about your loved ones that are being honored during the chanting. Namandam, 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 namandam. Kogen gigi, ijin mugok, nyoze emyo, muyo tosha,
日月間に主公遠慮開始のペイ有脈樹木如来予言朝鮮無人小学大音こぬ実法開門精進三昧知恵意徳無量主生慶人体前年小仏北海愚人人の空語外体無明欲ぬ世尊読む人の死死人徳無量空君古代知恵人妙光明一層神道大戦願が差仏在所法可動生じ未不下脱不正上位解任精進如是三昧知恵以上五世特部不行志願一切空空一切大安決しうぶ百千億万無量大小修行五者供養一切死と勝仏不如愚道賢勝不客頻尿五者勝仏世界不不可け無種sep道光明師匠変師諸国如是精進異人難女両が差仏国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国如内音ニムトソガトアイミンドダプニサイジポ内書シネプ少女イトガ国ケラクアンノコブ神妙ゼガ神書ホプガンの非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上領子孫知が信用権領心死食毒中が行精進人寿不敬ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマ Namandabe Ganni Shikudoku Byodo Seisai Dohoten Bodai Ojo Namandam, 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 namandam.
Well, thank you once again for joining us for our March Shotsuki Hoyo monthly memorial and adult Dharma service. I'm going to talk a little bit about the format later during the announcements, but for the Dharma message, I'd like to begin by reading a passage from one of Shinran Shonin's letters, and he is the founder of our school, so please join me in Gassho. Those who feel uncertain of their birth in the Pure Land should say the Nembutsu aspiring first for their own birth. Those who feel that their own birth is completely settled should, mindful of the Buddha's benevolence, hold the Nembutsu in their hearts and say it to respond in gratitude to that benevolence, with the wish, may there be peace in the world and may the Buddha's teaching spread. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Okay, thank you very much. Let me close this. So, it's been quite a week or so. One of the big items in the news, of course, is the war in Ukraine. And I know that some people are concerned about this and very upset. So I'd like to speak about it just a little bit. The first thing is that I think Buddhism, at its core, believes in peace. And that's why I read the passage from Shinran Shonin. I'll read it again a little bit later, but he's saying we should have this wish for there to be peace in the world. War only feeds the three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. It's through wisdom and compassion that we can strive to overcome the three poisons, hopefully for a better world, not just for ourselves and our own families, but ideally for everyone. And sometimes maybe it seems like a fantasy that such a thing could come true. But with all our technology, with all our knowledge, can we not move closer to that goal? Why does it seem like we've been moving deeper into anger and ignorance? But that's a wish, an aspiration for the future, right? For peace, for wisdom and compassion to pervade the world. What do we do in the meantime? So, I've been thinking about this. I have a friend who, I think he feels that with media, social media, the news, right, that we're in this kind of a mood of fear, right, and of just being worried all the time. And so how do we combat that? Is that all that we can have? So I've been thinking about it a little bit, and I think a lot of it is related to mindfulness, awareness. But mindfulness of what, right? Mindfulness is such a popular thing right now, right? And this kind of buzzword. But I think that we need to recognize that there's all different kinds of mindfulness. And maybe there's two kinds of mindfulness for us in Jodo Shinshu. One is mindfulness of the Buddha, which is actually another way to say Nembutsu. Nen is this kind of mindfulness or awareness, or that's one meaning for it. Butsu is Buddha. So mindfulness of the Buddha, bringing Buddha and his teachings to mind. But the other kind of awareness is awareness of myself. Self-reflection, introspection, also aware of what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. Right? A lot of times, we're only dimly, vaguely aware of such things, right? As we just go through our day, just doing the best we can. But maybe if we can, try to incorporate a little bit of this mindfulness into our life. So one thing I think we need to be aware of is how much media are you consuming? Do you have CNN on 24/7? Right? I was watching some show on, I forget what, I think it was National Geographic actually, and it's Rob Lowe talking about, was it the 90s maybe? The 80s? It was either the 80s or the 90s. It must have been the 80s, huh? And so, because that's one of the things was commercials, where's the beef, right? And one of them was about, I forget what the main topic was, but they were talking about CNN and the early days of CNN. And there was a story of a baby who fell down a well, right? And so most news stations would only talk about it at their 7 o'clock news or whatever, and maybe they'd have an update bulletin kind of thing, but CNN is there all the time, right? Constantly broadcasting and like, ooh, amazing, we can have news anytime. But we kind of take it for granted now and maybe don't realize how that's an incredible flow of information going into our ears and our minds and through our eyes. And are we aware of that? I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but if it's just constantly playing, it's better to be aware of that fact, that it's constant, this constant flow of information. And maybe you realize, maybe I don't want to consume that much news information. Right? Maybe it's better to kind of watch it more intentionally, right? Looking for certain information, rather than have it constantly flowing into me. So, one option is turn it off and just don't pay attention to the news. But I think that's also kind of an extreme. So when you hear me talk about extremes, you know I'm going to talk about middle way, right? So I think to try and bring maybe a middle way as we become aware of, for example, my media consumption. Social media, too, is another layer of that, right? And that we get a lot of information from news stories online, right? And to just mindlessly consume it, I don't think that's good. Right? And it's better to have this awareness and maybe that kind of intentionality, right, of what's going on, how much I'm taking in. So another thing to be aware of is the various emotions I'm feeling. On my paper, I have negative emotions, but I think just some awareness of how I'm feeling is good. And it's not always easy. Sometimes we have a sense of dread, or we're upset or stressed out about something, and sometimes we hold it at arm's reach, right? Or if not further away, to not think about it. But maybe it's better to bring it up in my awareness, right? And to try and have that recognition that, yeah, I'm not feeling good about this or that. So again, a kind of middle way approach. Try and see these emotions, acknowledge them. Sometimes even just by acknowledging it can help. But then it's also hard not to attach, right? Hard not to grasp at those feelings. And so some kind of letting go, right? To realize, wow, I'm really anxious. I kind of hate to bring it up because I don't want to make you upset if you haven't thought of it already, but it seems like we're really close to nuclear war again, right? I was born in 1970. I feel like I'm kind of like the unconscious, the day after generation, right? Where like we were fed this story that nuclear war was right around the corner. And it kind of was, right? But that feeling of dread that I think many of us felt, and if you were a kid, I think maybe it was even worse. I don't know. But you could be boomer too, right? And you grew up with duck and cover and, you know, after World War II. And so it's something I think we all deal with. If it's just there in the background, then it's motivating us in a negative way. So bringing that out and looking at it, right? And realizing, wow, yeah, this is uncomfortable. It's kind of scary. And it's okay to feel that way, that acknowledgement, right? That's what I like about Jodo Shinshu. I love it. right? You realize, wow, I have these feelings, and it's okay. Of course we feel this way. But then also, once we acknowledge it, we don't have to grasp onto it and hold onto it. So, and this is kind of a New Year's message I've given, right? That it's easy to get stuck in the past or to get stuck worrying about the future. And so realizing, the future that I'm worried about hasn't happened yet. So why worry about it? Why hold on to that? So if I can realize, oh yeah, I'm worried about something that might happen. Maybe it seems like, yeah, it's really likely it's going to happen. But really? Do you really know? And if it hasn't happened yet, do you really want to spend that much energy worrying about it? So don't get stuck worrying about a future that hasn't come yet. And then I'll say, and let's learn lessons from the past. And I read a whole list of people from the past who we can learn from, right? The Shotsuki families, the Shotsuki names, they're your family, right? Very likely, if you're watching this service, it's because it's a Shotsuki for this monthly memorial for one of your family members. So we can think about what they went through. Many of them lived through really difficult times, right? Especially, I think, leading up to World War II, during the war, the years after the war, the Korean War, Vietnam War, even, just all those different times that life is difficult very often. And there are wars. And a lot of people suffer and have suffered through history and are continuing to suffer. And here we are. We're here, right? We can see, wow, how much our loved ones went through who are on this list, right? I think a lot of them went through some really difficult times. But I have a feeling they really cared for you, right? And did their best to give you the best life possible. It's not always the case, but maybe they had difficulties too. That perseverance. Last week I was talking about Kismet, right? My cat's named Kismet, but that sense of fate, right? From the Middle Eastern kind of Arabic, not necessarily Muslim Islam, right? But that feeling of Kismet and how it carries a sense maybe of resignation, right? That we can be kind of resigned to, yeah, life doesn't go the way I want all the time. But it's not only that, right? It's also Namo Amida Butsu, wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. The Buddha taught, Shakyamuni Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, and we still have these teachings to listen to incorporate. We still have this way that can pull us away from being stuck in the future or, stuck just mindlessly consuming media or, these negative emotions that we may feel. Right? We can get stuck there, but the Buddha Dharma is a way that can maybe help lead us out of that stuck kind of feeling. So, Namo Amida Butsu, it's the call of the Buddha, it's the name of the Buddha, it's wisdom and compassion calling out to us. Namo, I take refuge. Amida Buddha, Buddha of infinite light, immeasurable life, true reality itself, that is wisdom, seeing things as they truly are, not this illusory world of greed and anger and ignorance, but also compassion, right? That it's not some static, lifeless nothing. It's compassion, it's love, it's light. And I understand that to be pervading everywhere, even when things seem really difficult. That this light is always there. So when we say Namo Amida Butsu, maybe we're reorienting to that. Right? Getting off these kind of mistaken side roads that we get stuck on. Right? And instead going on this wide way of the Pure Land way, of the Buddha way, the Buddha Dharma. So, to conclude, we're living through some difficult times. Everyone's life is different, right? And each one of us has our own situation, but recognizing that the world right now is going through some really difficult times. And so just to try and be aware of how I'm feeling, try and be aware how I'm interacting with the world, whether it's through news or whatever, right? And to that awareness being a way to help us not get stuck in it. It might be easier said than done, but Namo Amida Butsu is something bigger than just me, bigger than all of us. So I hope that maybe you incorporate some Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, into your life. You can say it after me in the service, but you can also say it by yourself. If you catch yourself feeling upset or worried or whatever, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Sometimes that can just pop out, right? And help, I hope. So thank you very much. I didn't end up talking about the letter from Shinran Shonin that much, but let me read it once again. Maybe next month. So Gassho, please. Those who feel uncertain of their birth in the Pure Land should say the Nembutsu, aspiring first for their own birth. Those who feel that their own birth is completely settled should, mindful of the Buddha's benevolence, hold the Nembutsu in their hearts and say it to respond in gratitude to that benevolence with the wish, may there be peace in the world and may the Buddha's teaching spread. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Okay, some brief announcements. We still, the temple is still not open, but we are looking at March 20th, our spring Ohigan, as being an in-person service outdoors. The weather will hopefully be nice, and we can enjoy the coming of spring together. And then after that, we'll be continuing, and that will be online too. We'll be streaming it at the same time. And then from that point on, planning on in-person services here in the Hondo even, indoor in-person, which will also be streamed. So if you're feeling brave, you feel confident to come on out, check the website or check your email for the announcement, but we're looking forward to that time when we can do that. But you'll also be able to watch online too. Please hit the like button if you like this service, if you like BCO, and subscribe if you have not done so already. And you can check the links in the description for getting to our website, just even for information or to subscribe to the mailing list or even become a member. Okay? Well, thank you very much. This will conclude our service. After Gassho, we'll have the virtual incense offering. So why don't we close with Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda.